dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Hey guys, it's Eric here, and in this video we're joined by Councillor Uruemu Adejinmi. Councillor Uruemu is a Fianna Fáil councillor on the Longford County Council and Lough Cathaoirleach of Longford Municipal District. She holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics, an MBA, and a postgraduate degree in risk and financial analysis. She's involved in many community groups in Longford, such as the St. Mel's Cathedral and St. Christopher's Disability Services. She's also the founder of the Longford Africans Network, which was set up to try and help members of the African community in Longford get access to information and services. Uruemu is someone I've had the pleasure to work with on multiple occasions. She's a fantastic activist and a very exciting, charismatic politician. She has made history within the political sphere already here in Ireland, being the first black Irish female in Longford history to be appointed as a county councillor and the second black Irish female in the history of the state to become a county councillor. And I have no doubt in my mind that Councillor Uruemu will go on to make more history in Irish politics. In the video, we talk about why diversity in politics is important and an inherent good. We also talk about the effectiveness or lack thereof of quotas as a mechanism to bring about diversity within the political sphere. We talk about the underemphasis that is placed on ethnic minorities in our conversation on diversity in politics. We also talk about some of the barriers Uruemu has had to face as a black Irish councillor and what we hope the future of Irish politics to look like in terms of diversity in politics. I always enjoy and learn from my conversations with Councillor Uruemu, and this conversation was certainly no different. I really hope you enjoy watching the video and take something away from it. Without further ado, here it is. Hey guys, it's Eric here, and I am back with another video. And I'm so happy to say that in this video, I'm joined by Longford County Councillor and someone who I'm so privileged to have been able to work with on a numerous of occasions, Uruemu Adejinmi.
Hi, Eric, and hello to your listeners. It's great to be on your show.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. But in this video, we're going to be talking about diversity in politics. It's a topic that has been talked about a lot over the past while. A lot of different people are dipping their toe into the conversation and talking about how we can bring it about. The most notable campaigns that I can think of is the recent one from Holly Cairns, the More Manal campaign, talking about how we can bring about the entrance of women in politics. Great organizations like the National Council of Women have been talking about this thing also. So in this video, this is what Uruemu and I are going to delve into. So I'm going to briefly talk about why I think diversity generally is important and diversity in politics is important before we get on to your views and your thoughts when it comes to the subject. Diversity for me, I think all we have to do is look at a country like New Zealand. They have the most diverse parliament in the world. And when we talk about New Zealand, we tend to associate New Zealand to good governance. They dealt with issues like the COVID-19 crisis really well. And generally speaking, they're very progressive when it comes to their policies and their nation. I think they're kind of a bastion when it comes to the West, countries that we look to in terms of progressiveness and how they politically operate. And their parliament is the most diverse parliament in the world. And I don't think it'd be far-fetched to associate their progress with the fact that their parliament is incredibly diverse. Then, of course, there's the classic argument that we have a society that is diverse, that is made up of different communities, so it makes sense for our political system to reflect those communities, so policies can be passed in a way that encompasses the experiences of people within diverse communities, and they have representatives that look like them and feel societal experiences in the same way that they do. And lastly, a kind of unconventional point I thought of recently is the fact that if you look at companies' mission statements, they value diversity. They understand that corporate success can be brought about by the fact that you have different people with different opinions who can add more to how you corporately operate. Even I'm a big soccer fan. I think you support Arsenal.
Don't remind me.
From experience with playing soccer, I think every successful coach and manager values the fact that if you have a team with players that can bring about a different vast range of competencies and skills and specialities, your team can perform well if that's tapped into effectively. So I think it's no different when it comes to politics. So this would be my view when it comes to diversity in politics. But I'm going to pass the mic to you and give you the opportunity to make the case for diversity in politics? Why do you think it's something that's important and something we should value?
Thank you, Eric. I have to agree with absolutely everything you've said. Diversity is important in every facet of life. Every sector benefits from diversifying their workforce. It encourages integration. It encourages interaction. It encourages understanding. It encourages appreciation for our differences as well, and we work on presenting ourselves better, and we work on getting along. And when you are interacting constantly, you are being challenged on maybe whatever nuances you imbibed growing up, whatever prejudices you picked up along the way because of that lack of association, that lack of integration. It challenges those norms, and it compels us to be better in our interaction, in our behavior, in how we present ourselves. And that's how we are a stronger society. So absolutely, diversity is so important, particularly in politics. Politics controls everything. Who would have thought that with COVID-19 and how rampant this pandemic is sweeping the countries globally? Who's at the forefront of it? Politicians. The prime ministers, the minister of health, the cabinet. They are working hand in hand with the medical experts. So politics is so important to represent diversity, the diversity that we have in our society. And if you think about our Irish voting system, or PRSTV, PR is proportional representation. So it states that in our voting system that if you consider the maths of the number of TDs we have 160 TDs, and if you take that against the population of Ireland, you need a representation of say 1 TD per 30,000 people approximately. And then when you look at the number of minority groups in Ireland is in excess of 500,000. So we really and truly, if we want to reflect the diversity in our society, you should be looking at 9 members of parliament from minority groups. But obviously it's a long way to get there, but starting it and starting the conversation is how we will move towards reaching that ideal situation where we have ample representation of everybody in society. And we know straight away, like you said, as we are talking about policies, as we're talking about legislation, we know straight away how it's going to affect every citizen in the country. And that's how we can all develop collectively as a society.
Absolutely. You definitely made the case there in a very convincing way.
Thank you.
I guess the next question, I think, that naturally follows from what we just chatted about is the activities that are going on within the political sphere to try and enact diversity and the entrance of more people who are underrepresented within our political system. So I guess my question upon that basis would be, from your experience as a political activist and a politician, do you think political parties are doing enough when it comes to bringing about diversity within politics here in Ireland?
I think political parties are definitely clued in to the need for them to embrace the minority groups as we approach a new Ireland, and to embrace the new Irish society as well as we approach a modern Ireland, I should have said. And I think there's no lack of work to be done. They are working constantly. I can say in my own party, we are working actively, and with me in there, and I know how minority groups are going to benefit, and as well the Irish natives are going to benefit from having that link, that connection with minority groups as well. I'm working with our party officials to reach out to minority groups. Again, there's no lack of talent in minority groups. There's so many community leaders, and they would love to be invited to, because sometimes people don't know how to get involved to this degree. But for myself, I was invited to join the Fianna Fáil party. So if I wasn't invited, I probably would still be on the outside, just expressing my desire to be represented in my local community, to be represented nationally. So I was invited. They actively targeted me to join the party. So I think parties can do more of that. And then at the same time, when I was running for elections in 2019, what I discovered was that a lot of minority groups do not actually participate in the electoral process, which is it's something that more awareness needs to be created in that regard. So we need the parties to work at it, and then we need to spread the message and to educate minority groups as well on, you know, the PRSDV system in Ireland, which is different from most other countries. I take Nigeria, for example, is first person to the first past the post system. So it's one man, one vote. Whoever gets the highest wins, and that's the end of it. So a lot of training and information needs to be disseminated, particularly amongst minority groups, to inform them of the voting structures, and then to encourage them to participate and be part of that change that we need to see.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think it's great that you acknowledge minority groups generally there. You know, of course, that encompasses women because they're greatly underrepresented here in Ireland. I believe they make up 22.5% of the Dáil, which is just so disheartening. And furthermore, ethnic minorities there's just an absenteeism of ethnic minorities, not only within our parliament, but in conversations about parliamentary involvement. I know in the Shannon, there's been progress in the kind of appointment of Eileen Flint, who's of the traveling community, but generally speaking, I don't see much going on when it comes to ethnic minorities. And we're having substantial conversations about diversity, but I don't know if our conversations are encompassing ethnic minorities and whether we're talking about how we can enable ethnic minorities to feel a part of the wider political makeup of our country. Would you agree or disagree with my statements here?
Oh, I would agree, absolutely. And we see the inroads Eileen is getting, bringing, you know, the issues of the traveller community to the fore, and there's more engagement. There is a commitment to tackle these issues that have been left, you know, unresolved for ages, and it does, you know, create a lot of anger and division in society when a particular cohort feel, you know, not just underrepresented, but feel unheard. They don't have a voice. They don't have the support that they need, and they keep, you know, talking about the same problems time and again, and they go unresolved. So, you know, just Eileen being there is a clear example of, you know, the advantages of having a representation where it matters. You know, it is so important. You're absolutely right. Not all minority groups are being represented, and if you look at even with that 22% of female representation in the Dáil, what you're seeing is a lot of women's issues coming to the fore. We're talking about, you know, period products that are the cause of the absence from school for 16% of girls, you know, and that is something that has been enduring, and it hasn't been addressed. So now straight away, it's going to have such positive impact. We're looking at IVF being part of the public health system. So, you know, there are so many examples that show what a difference, you know, that representation makes. And absolutely, we need to be looking at representation of all cohorts of gender representation, minority representation, people with special needs, people with disabilities, or special abilities, rather. There should be adequate representation so that everybody feels that their voice is being heard, they're being represented, and their needs are being addressed.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think as a politician, you are known in Longford and nationally for being proactive. And I think anyone who glimpses at your Twitter would see that you're always talking about the next step and how we can identify problems, but talk about how we can eradicate those issues and progress. And I guess in the context of diversity in politics, there's a lot of conversations being had about the mechanisms that we could possibly utilize to bring about diversity in politics. I would be of the view that when it comes to women, for instance, we need to, as you said, acknowledge the fact that if there was a presence of a more prominent presence of women within our parliament, they'd be able to acknowledge issues like period poverty, and other problems that women face, like the lack of maternity leave available to a lot of female politicians, that kind of plague our political system because of the fact that women, their voices are not being amplified politically to acknowledge these issues. Problems like racism, there is no fervent and passion to tackle those problems now, at least not as much as there would be if there were more ethnic minorities in Parliament to advocate for those issues, as we talked about with Eileen Flynn and the issues that the traveling community face. So because of these pressing issues related to diversity, we talk about mechanisms that we can use to bring about diversity in politics. And one of the most, I think, universally favored here in Ireland, but generally speaking in a global context, controversial mechanisms that people resort to is, quotas. And I think quotas, they're based upon the idea that there's an immediate need for diversity. We need to utilize these mechanisms to bring it about immediately, to fixate an outcome that's diverse and that's good for the country. And I guess we brought it about in 2016, and they were applied in the 2020 election, and female candidacy increased. However, there was only one additional elected female representative in 2020 relative to 2016. So that kind of puts into the air the question as to how effective quotas might be. So I guess my question to you would be, do you think that we should wholly rest on quotas as a device to bring about diversity, or should we explore other avenues like possibly culture, the fact that there's somewhat of a misogynistic culture embedded in the political activity here in Ireland, and perceptions, the fact that we still hold on to age-old traditional perceptions? It seems like leadership is for men, and women cannot occupy leadership roles. Do you think we should tackle the culture and the perceptions as well as introducing quotas, or do you think quotas is a kind of golden bullet that will bring about the change we want, especially considering how effective they were in the 2020 election?
I think, Eric, a quota system, I think it works. What, in my view, having the quota on a number of candidates doesn't go far enough. That's the problem with the quotas. There should be, and this was something mentioned by Fianna Fáil Senator Catherine Ada, and she's calling for an output quota. So the output quota will ensure that a certain number of female representatives are actually elected. So once the first, number of females that get that have the highest votes or whatever get elected, that output quota actually exists in the Shannon elections, as I discovered, because I participated in the Shannon elections last year. So they have the way the Shannon elections work. The parties put forward candidates, and then the industry puts forward, or industries qualify some candidates. That's my own understanding or my own interpretation. So I'd have to find the actual technical terms for these putting forward these candidates, and you have to elect so many from each bunch of nominations. So say you have like the agricultural panel, I think they had nine seats to be taken up, and you have to have 5 seats from, say, the party elected reps, and then you have the 4 seats from the Irish Farmers Associations or whatever body identified those candidates. So it's something similar where there's an output quota for so many women to be elected in the different electoral areas, and that will definitely push up the numbers, because when I ran in the local elections, there were I think there were 10 female candidates in Longford running for office, and there's just 2 women on the council now, so there isn't a shortage of candidates, but the focus needs to go beyond a quota on candidate selection. It needs to go into output quota as well. Having said that, I'm sure there are other say proposals that can be looked at, and starting this conversation brings forward those suggestions. Like I did a radio interview talking about the underrepresentation in the oireachtas of minority groups, and the question was put to me that quotas are, you can justify quotas because female representation, women represent more than 50% of society, so absolutely you can justify quotas that way. However, with the minority representation is about 10%. So how do you implement quota in every electoral area? So you end up overcompensating if you have quotas. And my response to that was, well, you could look at the focus on the areas where you have the highest migrant representation and put quotas there, say maybe in Dublin, Cork, Galway, to start with. And I don't see quotas as a permanent solution. It's a catalyst just to speed up that equilibrium position that would be ideal and would resemble, say, the likes of New Zealand. So as a temporary measure, you get these minority groups and get the balance of that we desire, and then we see how effective it is. When we have a better functioning society, we can take out the quotas, we can take out gender quotas, we can take out minority quotas, or whatever structure or whatever system we deem fit at the time, and then let people contest based on, you know, their body of work, which would be the ideal situation. And again, it will do away with that traditional mindset of, you know, a man should lead. I definitely don't agree with that. I think anybody that is that's capable and as particularly has shown through their actions, through practice, how good a leader they can be. I think, you know, the proof should be in the, or the taste of the pudding is in the eating. When we see how people perform, then we're getting behind them, be they male or female.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic approach to take to it generally. And I think in principle, it's hard to argue against what you said there, especially what you said lastly about competencies. You know, there are incredible female leaders in our country and male leaders who have ability. So as you said, we should judge them on their ability, not merely on the fact that they're male or female. So I would agree with you absolutely. And moving on then, on to you personally. Of course, you know, you are a proud Black Irish woman who has Nigerian roots. And being this, I think, from on the surface of things at least, isn't particularly easy when it comes to political participation. So what would you say the biggest barrier or biggest challenge you've had to face has been in your political journey thus far?
I think the biggest, I have to have a think about that now, the biggest barrier. I don't know what to pick now. It'll be a combination of let me see, if I commented from a position of the challenges I experienced, and that would be, you know, being say not having the enough minority representation in parties. I think that is somewhere I felt that, you know, we are missing out as a minority group, because getting involved with the party, particularly at grassroots level, is an opportunity to really engage with party members, network, an opportunity to network. I always you know, take advantage of every opportunity to network, because it's so important to get allies, to get people that, you know, can support you in whatever decision you take for yourself and for your family and for your community. So, you know, that's the absence of minority groups in political parties. I think it's something that I saw as a definite something to work on. It'll be great for more minority groups, because, you know, on the one hand, we are looking for political parties to, you know, to provide opportunities for minority groups. But then you have party members who work hard day to day at the grassroots. You know, it's a bit unfair to expect people to put their political ambitions aside. So if we want to justify looking for that that support, that representation, we should be part of that representation as well and work towards it. So that's something that I feel that we can work at as minority groups. And then I think another issue would be, the discrimination, online abuse, particularly, where you're trying to work hard for your community and you're trying to make positive changes that will benefit all, both native and non-native, and then you're hit with sarcastic remarks or derogatory remarks or discriminatory remarks. I think those are uncalled for. It doesn't stop me from keeping up, working hard to represent my community. I pay them no mind. I don't engage with negative remarks or any far right attacks on my person. But I think that it's unfortunate to be set with those kind of barriers or those kind of attack when you're trying to bring about positive change for yourself, for your family, and for the community. Because I can see, I've worked several years in the private sector. I have interacted with multinationals for the majority of my working life as a private citizen, and I know how the benefits of that interactions, how and it really made me interculturally sensitive. So it's hard to encourage and to promote the benefits if people keep coming at you saying, we don't want that, go away, that kind of thing. So those are kind of the barriers that I've seen. And on the flip side of it, I've had a lot of encouragement, a lot of support from the council, from my fellow councillors, from members of the community, from my political party. So, and when you get such support, it's kind of like an encouragement, and it's like an affirmation that you're doing the right thing, and there's people that are going to benefit from these efforts. And okay, the final kind of being for me in my role as a public representative is the diary provision system. Like it's just there's been so many calls for it to be abolished. We are expecting a white paper next week, and I hope that will include plans to abolish the DP system and bring a more fit for purpose system. Again, that nightmare has endured as well because of underrepresentation of minority groups, because you need somebody, bringing your issues to the fore constantly until the change we need is enacted. And during the preparation of a program for government, I indeed made submissions in relation to direct provision, in relation to encouraging female entrepreneurs, because again, that's another lack in the system, where a lot of females are not as financially buoyant as their male counterparts. If we look at parental leave, and even with COVID-19 and job losses, it's affected more female members of the labor force than male, and people having to look after the children at home is disproportionately affecting women as well. So there's so many issues that need to be tackled. There's no need for any negative remarks or abuse for public reps who are working hard to represent those people that are being a nuisance online as well.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, I think it really speaks to your strength, to be able to withstand all of that for the good of the national community. So yes, I think it's a testament to your ability and strength as a politician, and it's super inspiring. And I'm glad that those watching this video got to hear that, to know that despite what people say, despite the discriminatory, hateful bile that you might be met with, it's good to persevere and continue, because what you're doing is in the best interest of not only yourself, but the community that you serve. I guess the last question I'll ask, sorry, it's more so of a perspective one, hopefully an optimistic one. what are your ambitions? What would you like the future of Ireland to look like in the context of diversity in politics, the parliament, political participation, kind of activity politically for minorities within our country? What would you like the future of Ireland to look like when it comes to diversity in politics?
In terms of the future of Ireland, what I would like to see is, diversity in education, a mixed bag of teachers teaching the children, because I think, again, with representation, you are reminded that there's diversity around you. You can't work in isolation. So diversity in every workforce, in the public service, because if you look at the public service, it in no way reflects society. So the government has work to do there to target the public service to represent the society as it is, and we need legislation as well. Like you mentioned, corporate institutions, they talk about equal opportunity, being equal opportunity employers, but then when you look at their workforce, it doesn't reflect society, and they cannot say that the talent only exists with a certain cohort. That is untrue. So there's talent in every cohort, and if you look at universities, there are students from all walks of life. There are students from different migrant backgrounds. So there are people in every sector that are working to be experts, to specialize in different areas. So we need to have that representation. If you look at the TV programs where they're talking about COVID-19 or whatever subject, you hardly see diversity in their panels. But when they're talking about racism, when they're talking about discrimination, bang, they suddenly have a pool of diverse people to talk to. So the media needs to work on that as well. We need to have a media that is responsible with the information they put out there. We need media to target experts in their field as well from the minority groups. I'd like to see representation in the Oireachtas, definitely. I'd like to see more women, more Africans, more Asians, more people from EU countries. In the Gardaí, like there was an article there where an Indian Garda was allowed to wear a turban, and the absolute joy it brought to him and his family. Little things like that. It makes such a huge difference. And we look at the Jerusalem video that the Garda did. Brought such a huge, brought such happiness to people, and you have different communities now, different counties joining in, and I'm looking forward to seeing your own entry, by the way, Eric. And it just goes to show that when we celebrate and appreciate diversity, it is something that really brings us together. And so yeah, in the judicial system, we want to see representation everywhere, so that every child growing up sees themselves in every part of society. There is no discrimination. There are no barriers. People are, when you apply for a job, you are appraised based on merit on your CV, as opposed to your name's not going to be easy to pronounce when we're working with you, so we'll make it easy for ourselves, which does happen. So, we just, that sort of society where, you don't have to explain why you are who you are. It'd be such a joy to have. Just think about when you're in your home, you're yourself. You don't have to put up a persona, or you don't have to move with a feeling of dread that what abuse am I going to get today? Imagine having that feeling each and every day as you go out into the world, as you come back home. It's just an absolute delight, and it's something that is possible. So that is my vision for Ireland, and I hope that future is near.
Well, you spoke there about the importance of diversity and representation, because younger people are able to see themselves in people who are in higher senior position within our society. And I think it's safe to say that you provided that image for so many young people, including myself. You've been such an exciting politician for the country. and you blaze a trail. And I'm really excited to see what you go on to do. So thank you so much for joining us here in this video. Everything you said was of value, and I'm sure everyone watching this video really enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video. Let us know what you think in the comment section. And Uruemu's social media tags will be in the description, so you can go and follow her on Twitter and go and see the great tweets that she puts out there. Do you have any final words to say before we conclude?
Just to thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak to your listeners, and well done on all the work you do to promote diversity and inclusion. And you are indeed a role model for the young generation. And the best of luck. And thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Uruemu. Thank you.